What's going on, guys? So today I want to tell you my experience in jail as a man with autism. It was very brutal, and it's not how you think. It's actually a lot worse. um, Worst thing about it was I was accused of stuff that I didn't do, and also there's another incident where I blacked out from a medication called Jantex, and it was just a whole ordeal, but I'll go over that maybe sometime. But in the future, uh, my YouTube video or my YouTube channel would be about learning languages and telling people how I've managed to learn languages. But for now, I wanted to go through something a little more serious. Um, so I spent about 17 days, all of that in solitary confinement, barely able to get out of my cell. It was atrocious and really depressing. Um, so let me tell you the story. So it was one Friday, and since I forgot the incident, I didn't know there was a warrant out for my arrest. And one Friday, the police showed up to this address where I'm at, and they issued a warrant. So, I was like, okay, I think I'll get out the next day. And they were like, yeah, you'll probably get out the next day. So I rode in the back with them, went to the station, got checked in, and it wasn't a big ordeal. And I'm like, what the hell did I do? And then they sent me into a jail block, and it was like a gen pop. So I was like, okay, this doesn't look too bad if I have to spend any time there. So I was there, and then the next day, I saw a judge, and my lawyer was very incompetent. They made me stand mute, so I didn't really say anything, but the judge had a bunch of inaccurate information, and I wanted to just explain like some things because my lawyer was not standing up for me. So I stood in front of the judge, and I thought I was gonna get a PR bond. Apparently, the prosecutor argued for a $5,000 cash charity bond, and I have a very weak family and not a lot of people and a lot of support, so it was very difficult. And they said I violated some bond conditions and all that, which I never did. And I told my lawyer what to say. Just say I volunteer, I learn languages, and I won't even hit a fly, and I didn't even have memory of the offense. And all my lawyer said was his mental health is bad and he's incapable. That's what she said. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna speak in front of her. And the judge is like, you better not speak, you're on mute. And I'm like, yeah, but a lot of this isn't right. I just wanted to correct. And he's like, nope, you're not talking. And then I got issued a $5,000 cash surety. So the officer that put me in the jail block, and this is in Washtenaw County Jail near Ann Arbor. I think there's two guys. It was Grant Loveday and then his brother, and they both looked alike. One of them had glasses, and the other one, they were obviously bullied in high school to take advantage of a disabled guy for something I didn't do. And then they spread rumors around the jail block saying I was a pedophile, which for me, I was sodomized as a kid. I was a nonverbal autistic, and until I was 7, and I was molested for 3 years by my daycare, and that really made me upset. And sorry, it's kind of dry. So I came in, this guy was like, you fucking pedophile, I'm gonna beat your ass. I'm like, dude, I'm not a pedophile, dude. And he's like, yeah, you're a fucking pedophile. The guards told me. And everyone was banging on the door, calling me a pedophile. So the guard came and was like, we're gonna put you in PC. So the inmate that called me a pedophile walked up to my door, and I'm like, no, this is not true. I showed him my paperwork, and he's like, yeah, you're in here for some bullshit. That guard fucking lied about it. And I'm like, yes, he definitely did. And I said I'm disabled with autism and other disabilities and that I don't really get into trouble. And he's like, yeah, that's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. So the next day, him and like a few of the cellmates planned an attack on this guard, and they attacked him. And then it turned out I got in trouble for conspiracy, and I had nothing to do with it. So that was the day of my court date. It was a few days later. And the whole time the guards, I have a bean allergy, I can't eat beans, and they would continuously give me food I was allergic to. And then they would skip my cell. They disrespected my religious beliefs. They didn't give me a Bible despite writing kites. They didn't give me a tablet. And, you know, after the guards, or after the inmates understood, I tried going back in the general population, and the guards declined it. So I went in front of another judge, and this is a very understanding judge, and he's on court cam. It's Judge Cedric Simpson. Kind of looks like that judge from like the jail video game, and he's a pretty cool guy. And I stood in front of him. You know, the day before though, the lawyer actually showed me the video of the offense, and I looked like some fentanyl zombie, like running around crazy, you know, and it's nothing like me. And the legal system's so black and white that they misconstrue like something that happened to me because of a medication. And I also was sent to Stonecrest, which further screwed me up. You know, I did discuss that in one of my videos, but the judge was so I listened to the lawyer, and the prosecutor's like, we can't let him out, we need a competency exam. And then the judge was like, yeah, bond reduction's rejected. So that was like 3 days in the jail. Wasn't able to get a phone call, wasn't able to access my commissary money. My PIN number on my bracelet didn't work. And no matter how much I asked the guards, it was like 2 of the love days, and they were fucking pricks. This fat guy with glasses who, I just have an issue with him, you know. And I'm kind of happy that the inmates at least took a step and helped me. And I actually made friends with those inmates, you know. And they were in there for serious crimes like murder, armed robbery. They're facing many years. They had nothing to lose. So after I got out of court, he said, hey, you're in trouble for conspiracy. We're going to put you in solitary confinement. And it's 23-1, no commissary. So they sent me over to, it's called C block. There's C and F block, but I sent to C block. And it was this nasty, just horrible cell block. And one person allowed outside, only 1 hour outside a day. And if your food has beans, too bad, you can't eat, you know, nothing. I didn't get books, I didn't get any educational content. I was just sitting there, no TV, in like a 10 by 10 foot cell, looking at the wall. And while that, I was hearing the inmates next to me pounding on the wall, screaming. They pounded on the wall 24/7. It's something you expect from solitary confinement. Constant pounding, you can't sleep, you know, and it just felt miserable. And I got sent to C block, you know. My room had no running water. My bed was infested with bed bugs and lice, and there were fleas, all 3, especially bed bugs. And I asked for a cell change, and they said no. I'm like, how am I supposed to drink water? I don't want bed bugs, and I'm a clean guy. So shortly after, I actually tried committing suicide. I tied 2 blankets together, put it on the railing, and tied the blanket around my neck. I jumped off and almost died, but the blanket ripped, and I fell down. And then immediately after, a guard came in, and he said, oh, we gotta take you to the doctor. So I had like a big, gigantic bruise on my buttocks, but that's pretty much it. I went to the doctors, and they put me on suicide watch. Now this is where everything got a lot worse. They stripped me down bare naked. Guard was fondling my ball sacks. And then I was put in a suicide vest with no underwear on up to here. So my private area was showing. And the Velcro did not work. So I'm like, dude, why do I deserve this? I should have just been in Gen Pop, at least serve my sentence, especially for a crime I didn't remember committing. And the toxicology, I couldn't even talk about my toxicology results because it clearly showed that the prescribed medication caused involuntary intoxication, so it's like ridiculous. Sorry, my allergies are really bad, but so I was sent to the holding cell in the front of the jail in suicide block, but at least there's a TV. But the jail guards there are just power hungry, full of authority. Just because they get authority, they will overuse it for no reason. And still the same as C block. People are banging on the wall, screaming. And like, could I buy earbuds? No, they wouldn't give me earbuds. They wouldn't give me books. They wouldn't give me religious content. I wouldn't eat. They would constantly give me food I was allergic to. And then when there is food I could eat, it was very little and not filling. And I asked, is there snacks? Is there anything? No. At least compared to Stonecrest, they gave me my medication and no like injections without my consent. So there's that. But it was an overall terrible experience, and I didn't know when I was going to come out. The entire time I was sat in my cell, I think in the 15 days I was there, I showered twice. Or three times. So, and the guards wouldn't do anything. I would ask the guards, hey, can I take a shower? A lot of the times they'll say no. Or if they say yes, then I would have to wait like 6 hours for them just to give me a shower, and you only get bar of soap. No deodorant, and I can't handle smelling bad, and I reek. I have poop stains on my Velcro. So the first day on suicide block, my Velcro wasn't working, and my like vest that was like a tiny skirt fell down, and I was bare naked. And there was these big windows where everyone could see me naked, and I was pleading the guards like, please get me a new vest. And they're like, we're busy. I'm like, dude, this is an emergency. So, I don't know what that was, but it's like, it's an emergency, and it took them 3 hours just to give me a new vest. And it wasn't until like I started screaming and knocking on the walls until the guards freaking came. So they can't do their fucking job. They're lazy as fuck, and they just sit around doing nothing the whole time. And they finally gave me my, outfit, and I've been nothing but respectful. I say please and thank you. I try not to make commotion. I'm trying to be as kind as I can. So after I finally got my vest, I had to sit another few days until I finally could get one book. Or two books. There's one mystery book, and it was about like this country star, and then there's another book about World War II and making pies in Hawaii, which was a pretty good book, but no educational content. And CMH would give me a little bit of learning content. Like some of the guards, the only guards that were nice to me were the female guards. If I asked the female guards, would you be able to print me off a crossword puzzle in Spanish? They would, or a short story in French. They would, or learning Greek or Romanian. I got like some of those, but so I did get some content finally. But it wasn't only until the female guards were working there and they saw me. I wasn't able to shave my neck hair. My neck was growing out to here, and I was very uncomfortable. I'm bald, so my hair doesn't grow here, so it was like growing out on the sides, and I didn't like the way I look. And they wouldn't let me shower, and it was still the same fiasco, like giving me food I'm allergic to. Sometimes they didn't give me my medications, and then the inmates around, sometimes they were just very noisy. And every day was just monotonous. Every single day was just monotonous. Just staring at a wall. At least there they had a TV, and there's March Madness some days, so I got to watch some of the March Madness tournaments. But this is so unfair. It's like it's cruel and unusual punishment. And it was a complete human's right violation. And every time I needed to take a shit, I'd have to shit in front of everyone. Every time I needed to take a pee, in front of everyone. No way to block yourself. No way to, have privacy. I had no privacy. And the guards were just assholes. They weren't even nice in the slightest. They treated you like scum. And it was all these weird, ugly guys that were obviously bullied in high school. Like there's this one guy with glasses, that have like the magnifying lens, and he looked like that one character from Office Space, the stapler guy, and that guy was a fucking prick. He wouldn't let me take a shower. He wouldn't give me food when I'm not allergic, you know? And I wouldn't even be able to get a tablet or rubber earbuds or nothing. I just sat there. And all I could hear for 24 hours is the agonizing scream, the pounding, and I saw cell extractions. I saw, like, PC, even if it's PC, people shouldn't be stuck in their cells for 23 hours a day. Or for me, it was 24 hours a day. There was like a 5-day streak where I didn't leave my cell at all. No joke. And then I think after like the 10th day, I got on MAT. So they finally gave me like Suboxone, and it kind of calmed me down a little bit. But the stupid thing is they only gave it at night. Only at night. Like, why not during the day? So at least during the day I felt better, you know? No, it has to be at night. And it has to, everything has to go their way. The worst time I had in jail was like the last like 3 or 4 days before I got bailed out. So the crime I didn't remember committing, I didn't have fair, you know, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but everyone was saying I'm guilty of something I didn't do. And I was going to be a sex offender for something I didn't do. I was going to be put on a sex offenders list, and that would have ruined my life over nothing I did. The things I did not do what I was accused of, you know? And I couldn't word out my concerns, you know? It was such bullshit. And at least the guards started to think, yeah, he's in for some bullshit, and they told everyone, so at least I'm not portrayed as some pedophile, which made me very happy, but still, it was like horrible. And the worst part of the jail was like, yeah, the last like 4 days. There was this grandma that came in, and she probably has Alzheimer's or some kind of dementia, and she sounded like Gilbert Godfrey, you know, and she had the most annoying voice, and she never shut up. Never, ever, ever shut up. And she was stupid as fuck, and it was pissing me off the whole night. She would use her flipper, or you get these Crocs, she would hit the door of the Crocs saying, "Guards, help me, help me, I need my inhaler, I have chest pain, I need to see a nurse." And the nurse would come constantly. The guards were always doing what she said because she was that fucking annoying. Guards! And this is the one moment where I wanted to be violent. I wish I could have went in my cell, went next door, and knocked her out. And I've never had thoughts about hurting other people. I genuinely wanted to knock her out because she was fucking pissing me off. And I told her, "Can you please shut up? You know there's other people around." She said, "Fuck you," N-word, with the hard R, and I'm white. And she's like, "Guards, officer, help, please help me." And it's like that, but she said it the whole time. No time where she was quiet. They gave her morphine and a bunch of opioids, still was up doing that the entire time. While I went 2 days without eating. I had breakfast, but then lunch and dinner had beans. They didn't give me food. And then breakfast, you know, I forgot to eat it, so I slept through it. And then lunch and dinner was beans. Stuff I was allergic to. I told my dietitian I can't eat beans. And sometimes they'd give me a no bean option, but most of the time the guards just left me there without eating, and I was starving. Like, it's such inhumane, you know? And this is like in the holding cell section of Washington County, where most of the people go to be held besides in Suicide Watch. And everyone there was just an asshole except the women guards. The female guards were nice, but everyone else was just fucking pricks. My phone was like mounted, and it wasn't until the 10th day where one of the guards, which was a female guard, told me how I could transfer my commissary funds onto the phone. 10 days, and it took me 10 days just to make a single phone call. Barely left my cell, couldn't, and there's these things called rates, and it's these slips saying you rate and you request something, and the guy upstairs, his name is Torres, always declined everything, rejected everything. I couldn't get commissary earbuds, and I'm autistic, and the noises, I'm super sensitive to overstimulation and noise and anxiety and all that, and they didn't give a fuck. They didn't give a fuck. And I could hear the lights buzzing, I could hear the whispers, I could hear like everything. And then I was sometimes hallucinating, seeing things I wasn't seeing, like shadow people. Felt like I was being possessed by the devil, you know, and I felt like I was suffocating. And I didn't know when I was gonna leave. I thought I was gonna be there for months and gonna just lay there and rot. But at least when I got my commissary money to the phone, I was able to call my grandparents and all of them, and they were like, we're gonna try to get you the money and go, but it's very expensive, just give us some time, you know. And I had to keep on calling, and while there, that grandma just would not shut up. And she was it just never shut up. And she was loud. And one night I finally got it. I just, you know, lashed out with her, and I was asking the guards, hey, can I ask you something? And I was knocking on the door for the guards, which I almost never asked the guards for anything. You know, I was mostly to myself. This guard did not come to my door. So what did they do? I kicked the door really hard, and he walked up there and he said, you know, you'll get a felony if you break the glass. I'm like, yeah, I'm not trying to, but I just wanted your attention. Is there a way that I can get rubber earbuds? And he's like, nope. And I'm like, dude, you know, I'm like on the autism spectrum, and you know, at least I need something to quiet the noise down. And they're like, well, this is jail. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, but at least I could get headphones or earbuds. They're like, nope. And you know, and I'm like, you know what, I don't mean to be a dick, but I've been respectful the whole time, and I never asked for anything, and all I wanted were headphones just to quiet out the noise. And he said, yeah, this is suicide precaution, you can't get headphones. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's like, you put yourself in this predicament. What the fuck? I did not put myself in this predicament. I got picked up on something I didn't get charged with, and you say you put yourself in this predicament to a guy that tried committing suicide. That's such a fucking shitty thing to say. And I told him, you know what, fuck you, asshole. And he's like, oh, now you're being rude? Yeah. And I said, you can't do your fucking job. And he can't. And he's like, okay. And no wonder why all the inmates are such bad, because the guards just need to be a little more respectful. And they treat us like trash. And they're very abusive. You know. And I was like publicly humiliated, completely new to myself in some point. You know, a bunch of things. The guards were touching my testicles. I had to duck down, and they looked in my anus. It was fucking disturbing and complete human rights violation. And then finally, on Sunday, my grandpa finally got the bail money and bailed me out. But take this, he had to go to 3 different courthouses, and they tried saying that they were raising the bond to $10,000, which isn't true, is not true whatsoever. And eventually I told my grandpa that, gave him the paperwork. It was actually $5,000, and my grandpa paid the $5,000, but I had to wait one more day until Monday. So I waited till Monday, and this lady was still there, not shutting up. And then finally, I got out, and I talked to a mental health worker saying, I'm fine, just get me the fuck out of here. I want to continue learning my languages. I want to continue fishing, just doing stuff on my own. And they let me out. Finally. 17 days. 15 of them were in solitary confinement. But the first 2, you know, I was in a cell pretty much the whole day. So basically, the whole time I was in solitary confinement. And imagine being in there, not knowing how long. And there are some other people around there that's been in solitary confinement for like 90 plus days. Like, people shouldn't be locked in a cell 23 hours a day or 24 hours a day for 90 days. And it's shitty because I understand if there's some really bad people, like child abusers, molesters, you know, or school shooters or something in that degree. But they treat people who aren't even proven guilty of their crimes, or people who don't have the money to be able to pay for bond. And you know, it's fucking ridiculous. You know, I'm so upset, and it traumatized me. You know, I'm definitely stronger as a man now, but it was such a brutal, like, thing I had to go through. And I finally got out, stayed quiet for the car ride home, and then I got out like 2 days ago, and then today was probably one of the best days of the year, because finally getting out of there and being able to do things I want to do, I got like a life high. I don't use drugs, I don't drink alcohol, but I'm like high on life because of the joy and bliss I had just being outside and enjoying nature and doing the things I want to do without being impeded by some annoying asshole who got bullied in high school and they want to just make everyone else's lives miserable, you know. And most of the time I just was kind to them. I wasn't even mean. The only time I was mean was the 2 times, the one where the guards would expose me butt-ass naked and not giving me another vest at work, and I had to wait 3 hours. And then sorry, my allergy is so bad. And then the other one was, you know, when they said, they put myself in this predicament because of me trying to commit suicide. And I'm happy I survived, but that is just the shittiest thing someone has ever said to me. It's fucking abhorrent. And I'm an innocuous guy. Like, I don't like hurting anyone. I don't even commit crimes, you know. So for me to be treated that way is just so degrading. And now that I'm out, I'm planning on filing a lawsuit against Shantex and then Stonecrest Hospital. And the thing Stonecrest did made it hard for me to get a job, and then the Shantex put me in the jail. So both of those lawsuits, and then they finally got the toxicology report. They offered me a plea deal, and I just said fuck it, I'm gonna plead guilty. And it was like 2 counts of aggravated assault, but it wouldn't show up on my record. I think it'd be 6 months probation and like a $300 court fine. And I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna take it. I'm not risking ruining my life. I'm just gonna take the deal, get this over with. My sentencing is next month, and Cedric Simpson was the judge at the time. He was pretty understanding. He finally understood what I went through, and you know, now I'm happy that I'm free. But for someone with disabilities and autism like me, who I'm very like high functioning, you know, so but it just was very inhumane treatment, and there definitely needs to be change in like the U.S. prison system. Like, hire more guards. The guards just need to be a little nicer to the inmates, you know, and not do like stuff because they have the authority to do it, you know. It's cowardly. It's so cowardly. And I just wanted to tell you my experience in Washtenaw County Jail, and I will never go there again, hopefully. But that's all I gotta say, and have a good one, guys.